Dadnarok presents the Ted Lasso AfterShow. This is Sharon.
And this is Chris.
Hey, we are back at it again. It's Friday, 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and we're here to talk about the 7th episode of Season 2 of Ted Lasso. Headspace is the title of this episode.
Very appropriate.
Yeah, I'd say so. In case you guys don't know, we are Dadnarok. We do an audio podcast available anywhere podcasts are available. We also do trailer reactions on our YouTube channel, and we do this each and every week. Check us out and subscribe to our YouTube channel if you haven't already.
Yeah, and we're fully interactive as well. So if you got comments or anything, drop it in there. If it's appropriate for the what we're talking about, we'll go right for it.
So Headspace, what are your first thoughts here?
Dude, I watched this at the wrong time of day, honestly.
Yeah.
Even based on the name itself, I wasn't in the right headspace.
You weren't in a good headspace yet.
I watched it this morning at I think it was 10 o'clock in the morning. So that's typically when I've got to watch it to get things ready for us.
Yeah.
A little bit of behind the scenes. And I'm watching it, and it's I ended the episode, and I'm like, we're a season and a half in. This may be my first stinker.
Really?
I wasn't enthralled with the episode.
Yeah.
Now, sitting back and watching it, there's one main storyline that we'll talk about in a little bit that I truly dislike. I'm done. I don't know what to expect from this other one storyline.
Yeah.
And then the Ted storyline is fantastic because everything it's what we wanted and what us fans have been expecting.
Right.
So it was, when I sit back and think about it, it was more of a split. So I don't know if it's a stinker, but it was very close for me.
I see where you're coming from, because in this episode, I make the thumbnails, and there's typically one or two scenes within an episode where it strikes me visually, and it's like, okay, well, that's the moment in this episode that would make the the thumbnail or whatever. And this moment, it was very talky, and there was a lot of plot progression, which is good. But it didn't have that kind of defining moment that a lot of these past episodes have had. Like Sam, when Sam does the whole thing on the field and, refuses to wear the logo on the jersey and stuff, that kind of moment.
Yeah, no, Maynard here says this is the only episode he can think of that isn't uplifting. I think, and that may be why, because we're so used to that, uplifting, lighthearted, fun episode.
Right.
And not a single one of the storylines were uplifting or fun. They were all either really heavy. No, they were all really heavy.
They were all really heavy. Yeah.
There was no lightheartedness in this at all.
It felt like everybody was having a bad day.
A very bad day.
Yeah. But I mean, we'll get into it just to kind of pick up from last week. Last week was the big reveal as far as who the mystery man was on the other side of banter that was talking to Rebecca this whole time. It's been Sam.
Yeah.
Which was a crazy reveal. They don't have much progression this episode. I mean, the next logical step in that storyline is going to be them actually finding out who each other are. But this episode just kind of played a little, they bump into each other in the hallway, this kind of thing, just little things like that.
Yeah. And we got a little bit, remember how we were wondering how, I guess we just kind of overlooked it on how Sam called her boss girl.
Yeah.
That's her screen name.
Oh, okay. That makes sense.
That's her screen name. And then, Sam's just that LDN, whatever generic screen name they'll give him. So he didn't change his. She changed hers to boss girl. And that's how she was able to, or he was able to refer to her as that. So he has no idea.
Right. I think the one scene that I did enjoy out of this storyline, this episode, though, was Sam in the locker room with the other guys. Talking about, waiting on those three dots to appear.
Yeah, they were staring at the three dots popped up. Yeah. And next thing you see is Rebecca sitting up in the office with Keely and Higgins. And was it Ted? Yeah, then Roy walks in a little bit later when they're talking about
Right. That was kind of funny. And the whole the mention of Ratatouille as being his favorite film and stuff. Keely was on board. She knows Ratatouille's a masterpiece. Have you seen Ratatouille?
Yes, I have seen Ratatouille.
Okay, yeah, you're a Pixar guy. You've seen
that. Yeah, absolutely. That's actually one we want to revisit with the kids not that long from now.
Yeah.
So, I found it funny that it popped up in this movie.
Right.
The show.
So yeah, basically, Leslie Higgins How did I remember his first name and it's not his last name?
Oh yeah, no, I barely know his first name. Yeah, no, it's Higgins.
I think it's because Rebecca actually called him Leslie a couple times this episode. But Higgins, he pretty much calls Rebecca out for exactly what she's doing. She's like, you don't want to talk to the guy because you're afraid of losing the little bit that you have right now. It's going to change into something else that is going to fall flat, So she's hesitant to reply back to Sam. She doesn't know it's Sam, but
yeah.
I'm waiting to have this storyline resolved. It's not one that I'm typically like really enjoying. Like you can kind of see where it's going now that we know that Sam is the one. So I just want to see how this wraps up. Basically, I don't mean to like hurry up a storyline, but it's kind of a foregone conclusion as far as how it's going to end up.
Or she stops replying altogether.
Right. Yeah.
If she just basically decides, you know what, I'm done with the app, and they leave that storyline that just floating in the air, and they revisit it later down the road. All of a sudden, out of nowhere, she responds, and he's like, "Whoa, I thought this was over."
Right. Or I could see where only one of them knows or finds out the truth, or say either Rebecca or Sam finds out that the other one is the other one, and that delays them further in the response or makes them feel weird ways and they don't know how to proceed. I could see them progressing it in that way too, as opposed to just meeting in a restaurant and them finding each other at the same time, that kind of thing.
I mean, they could go the whole, romantic comedy route with it. They've already done it once.
They have done the rom-com, this season so far.
So, I mean, there's so many options with it, but I'm with you. I mean, it's not my favorite storyline. I mean, they can kind of move on. And
let's move along.
Let's just move along. Move
along. Let's talk about Nate. Let's just dive into it.
Oh, so we're gonna go right head first into Nate here.
Yeah, let's see the crap sandwich here. So Nate's I don't know if I'm enjoying the storyline. I think it's interesting, but Nate is just, I don't know, especially that's one of the reasons why this episode ends on such a sour note too, is that it ends on this Nate scene where he's just so unnecessarily rude to the kick boy, and he's like passing along his aggravations and his, basically you can kind of see what's happening here with his father isn't showing any kind of pride or love towards him for whatever reason. I was even watching this with Christina, and the first scene that pops up is when he stops by the house, his parents' home, and he's in the kitchen.
It's just straight insecurities. That's what it is.
I know, but I'm like, what father on the planet sees his son's picture in the paper with glowing reviews with the newspapers, and he's just like so nonchalant and doesn't care about it? Like,
he may not approve of him. There may have been something in the backstory where he became, a kit boy, but his dad wanted him to go to school to be a doctor or a lawyer. So his dad does not approve of him being in this line of profession, period.
Yeah. And that's got to be you must be so dedicated to you must have been married to that idea so much that, not only is he not a kit boy anymore, but he's like a coach and he's in the papers for doing a fantastic job. And he's progressing in his career. So it's like, to even at that point still dump on him, it blows my mind. But
it's a cultural thing too. I think it's a cultural thing, and it's a generational thing. I think that's what I was going for. Not so much cultural, but more of a generational.
I think it could be a mix of both, honestly. Yeah, you're right. Like, actually, Christina brought that up too, where there could be just this divide between father and son, and as far as just expectations. But yeah, I mean, Nate passes that frustration along. He's projecting hardcore, and Collins just happened to get the brunt of it.
He becomes the punt even during like practice.
Yeah,
he tells Collins just to sit out because he's not one of the their goal scorers or their premier players.
Right.
And I love how Beard called him out on it too.
Yeah, this was a good Beard episode. After last week's episode with the stuff with him and Jane, it was just kind of like whatever. This was like Beard swooping in there and taking care of something that Ted doesn't even need to know about by the end.
Because he knows Ted's in a fragile spot right now.
Exactly, yeah.
And I love how Beard was there, and then Beard was gone.
he did the perfect thing for Nate, and he also did the perfect thing for Ted. He's just like the perfect wingman this episode. He was great. Let's see. What Nate didn't get is that his dad raising the newspaper, showing the Nate headline to Nate is him already acknowledging his son's accomplishment. That raising of the newspaper was intentional. Yeah, yeah. I think that's a fair point.
And just bring it up and then purposely lifting it up so Nate sees him reading the paper, so he knows that he's seen the article on the back of the paper.
And he basically tells him to, stay humble, in kind of a mean way of saying it. I forget what his words were exactly, but it was, stay humble, which, to be fair, Nate is the one that's, reading through Twitter constantly throughout the day and giving himself a pat on the back and thinking that he is this wonderkind or whatever. And, it's fair advice, Nate.
Yeah.
Don't get too swole in your head.
I mean, he's not exactly, a seasoned coach now. I mean, he's only been around for a short period of time. We're only talking, he got the whistle at the end of last season. So we're only about halfway through this football season.
Yeah.
And he's already, kind of going south on us.
The only varying point I see from that too is this seems like a relationship where his father has never given him praise. That's the only thing is like seems like the entire Twitterverse and the whole town is giving Nate praise, and still at this point his own father won't do it.
Oh, and I feel like I always say kids' behaviors are learned behaviors. And I think the behavior that's coming out of Nate now it quite possibly could be a reflection of how his father treated him.
Oh, yeah.
Basically calling Colin a painting that would only be hanging in a Holiday Inn. He's not a Picasso.
That was such a burn.
I mean, that was harsh.
That was like hurtful. That wasn't like a zinger, like a joke. That was like you were really trying to hurt him. Yeah.
So he is drinking his Kool-Aid pretty hard right now.
Yeah. And boy, Colin, I noticed every time I watched it where Colin was kind of, Nate kind of turns his chair back after he lays that wallop on him. And Colin, he starts to leave and then he comes back in as though he's going to say something. And then he just leaves again. And the camera pans to Beard, who's in the other office, who's just witnessed this whole thing.
Yeah.
And that's when we come back to Beard later. And Beard he calls him out on it.
Yeah. And I mean, he pretty much, and then I think Nate has that like realization, like, okay, I may have gone too far. Because it's almost like when he does some things, he's uncertain of himself after he did it. So he feels almost like he overstepped the line, but then reverts back to that same behavior. So so when he went out and he apologized, the whole team basically accepted him. It was what it was. And I think, that was that. So now instead of actually directing his anger towards one of the players, he's now redirecting it because there was a good, heartfelt moment when they got him a jersey. They put the one on it. They went ahead and put, Wonder Kid on the back, which, it's a olive branch. It's a nice gesture.
And everybody else thinks that that's just like a fun nickname. It was just like his little speech faux pas when he gave the interview at the press conference or whatever. Everybody else just thinks it was a cute little thing. And now they just made a nickname out of it. But to him, it was like, oh, I made an embarrassing mistake in public because I didn't know that Wunderkind was the actual word as opposed to Wonder Kid. And he feels embarrassed by it internally when everybody else just doesn't really care and they think it's funny. And because the kid boy made a jersey that said Wonder Kid, he just kind of laughs it off at first. But you find out later in this episode, he really internalized that.
Yeah, he's sitting in his office and then he's scrolling through Twitter. And I've got this clip here. And this was this picture of when he basically went crazy.
Yeah.
I mean, he's drinking his own Kool-Aid and he says, what's it say?
Nate might have one for Richmond, but he clearly still seems like a loser. Hashtag Nate, hashtag not my Wonder Kid.
Yeah. And right after that basically takes place, he then storms into the I think it's the boot room.
Yeah.
Where the Kit Boy was and rips into him.
The smoke-filled kid room.
Yeah.
that poor kid boy. That kid boy had a bad episode this episode. He's just walking around trying to do his job and everybody else is standing around not doing their jobs. And then he gets paraded at the end. It was awful.
Oh, man. I went on this whole thing. Like, I feel like Nate was gonna rise, and he was gonna rise to the ability to wind up on another team or another coach.
Yeah,
and I really think something else. You see, we have another comment here.
I'm hoping that the off-camera scene of him cursing was him cursing at the jersey and not Will. Oh, that's interesting. See, I just assumed Will the Kit Boy was, he was in the room, but we actually don't see Nate talking to Will. I think it's just kind of inferred, but yeah, that's a good point.
That is, I mean, he went in there and he was yelling, like, "Don't ever embarrass me again," or something like. Yeah, I mean,
I don't know.
Since it's off camera, it's hard to tell.
Yeah, I think we're meant to assume that he was yelling at Will, but it could go either way.
Yeah, but like I was saying, I felt like he was going to rise. He was going to take over for Lasso. When Lasso maybe need to step away. He was going to be an intern coach.
You wrote into season 3 last episode of the show.
I was going with it, and then when I was watching this, I think they may have taken a complete left turn on me. I think if Ted catches wind of this, Ted could fire him, could remove the whistle from him.
Yeah, that would. And honestly, with his actions and his behavior these last few episodes, like, he almost needs that to like shake him up a little bit, I think.
Because there's no Kit Boy job for him to go back to. He's been replaced.
Right. Yeah.
So now if he has been replaced there and he is fired from that position, he doesn't have, a team or anything to go, he'd be lost in the wind.
Especially in the culture and the environment that Ted's been able to cultivate here in the last season of being with this team. This isn't an environment where that kind of thing would be tolerated, as far as like specifically going after people.
This is interesting. I think Nate's going to make a play or a call again. It'll cost him the game, or it'll either humble him or make it even worse. Yeah, that's spot on. I think that there may be something to that,
like some overconfidence. We're thinking you've got this, and maybe butting in, and maybe going over Ted's head or something in the moment. That could very well be, and it backfiring on him.
Oh yeah, I mean, and Ted's the manager,
right?
I mean, essentially, Nate is just an assistant, and I mean, he can have the plug pulled on him at any time, and I mean, or he may force him to take a period of time away.
Yeah,
there's so many avenues with this, and I don't like it.
You don't like it at all. Here's the funny thing about this Nate storyline is that I don't like seeing Nate this way, because I really enjoyed his character and his progression in the first season and his growth. And this doesn't strike me as the same character that he was in the first season, because we didn't get an inkling. And all of a sudden this season, he's just like turned this corner where he's showing signs of himself that I just never would have had any thought that he was like this in any way in the first season. So it's kind of jarring as far as his behavior this season. But at the same time, every time I see a progression in this story, it is captivating for me, because I am curious as far as where the heck they're going with this story with him and how's this resolved. So, it is interesting. I hate seeing Nate behave this way, but it is interesting for me.
This was the part of the season, episode where I was telling you, I kind of felt like it almost made it a stinker for me.
Oh, okay.
Because I just don't like this storyline. I don't like, someone going from, really humble, not known, being a kick boy, and then given the opportunity.
Right.
And now and he was supported by everybody.
Right.
I mean, from all the way from from coaching staff to ownership to the players. The only one that didn't support him was the one that wound up leaving and now has come back and is a whole different character, which I love.
Right.
On how that character arc has gone.
Yeah.
So yeah, I would not be shocked if we wind up seeing him fired at some point, if it's not like at the end of this season, or at least removed from the sideline.
Right. Yeah. I could see that happening for sure, especially if Ted gets wind of him acting the way he is, because Ted's not going to like that one bit. He barely was able to keep Jamie around, and he was the only reason Jamie stayed as long as he did last season is because Ted was new and getting to know everybody and stuff.
Yeah,
but I don't think Ted has a lot of patience for that kind of behavior.
No, and Ted also had Roy in his corner.
Yeah, exactly.
Which he may lean into Roy again. That's a way they may be able to rehabilitate Nate's character, as lean into Roy the same way he leaned into Roy when it was with Jamie.
Yeah. So even though we have some harsh feelings about the way that they've treated Nate's character this season and the turn that it is still very interesting as far as discussing like what they could do from here, you know?
Yeah, I'll give him that.
So from the downer that was Nate this episode, we go to a bit of a kind of a I wouldn't say weaker storyline, but just kind of a one-shot storyline with Roy and Keely, where apparently there's some trouble in paradise there.
I wouldn't call it trouble in paradise. It's just one of those, if you've ever worked with your spouse or worked in the same building with your spouse, there's really, you better really, really enjoy being with them. It's kind of like what we're going through right now with a lot of people working from home. So if you have both spouses working from home, you don't have that interaction with other adults separate from your spouse.
Yeah.
So it gets to that point where like, okay, I need to do something. I love you to death, but I've got to get away from you.
It's so funny. This episode opened up with "I Got You, Babe" by Sonny and Cher, and people waking up in bed, and that just takes me right to Groundhog's Day. That's how Bill Murray woke up every single morning there in Punxsutawney. Was with that
Wonder
song.
If there's going to be a snowstorm.
But in doing that, it made me feel a certain way, as though like repetition, being stuck in the same day in, day out, and actually kind of put that in my mindset. And we start to see Keely's day and how she just doesn't have a moment to herself. Roy is on top of her, and
well, no matter what Roy does, he can't win. He does what she says to do: sit there and read, and it pisses her off that he does what she says he should do.
Yeah, because they're so into each other, and it's a good problem to have, I guess. But I sympathize with Keely, because there are times where I just need like to get away and like alone time, just to like decompress and like quiet my mind and that kind of thing. Which, to be fair, I don't think Roy was. I guess maybe just because they're so attracted to each other. Even Roy couldn't even sit there and read a book without her.
Well, he's reading the Da Vinci Code, and he's like, mind blown.
Right. That said, I mean, there wasn't a ton as far as, basically it's them having this issue, and it seems to be resolved by the end of this episode. They seem to be back in a better place.
I mean, we talked about the boot room. I mean,
yeah.
Was it Ted walks into the boot room and Keely's in there smoking a cigarette, and then Rebecca walks in with Higgins, and next thing you know, the poor Kit boy walks in and
just trying to get things done.
And they're talking, and all of a sudden Roy walks in, and everyone goes quiet.
Right, or does like jazz scat singing,
or they're singing to exactly.
Pardon me, I'm getting over a cold this week. You can't make me laugh too much. But yeah, so it was basically Keely's issue with not being, because Roy's been staying at her place this whole time too. I don't know if they've officially moved in together or what, but Roy's definitely been staying at her place, day in, day out. And you're right. I mean, you're with somebody in the morning, you wake up, you get ready, then you don't even part ways to go to different jobs. Like,
they take the same building, car to work.
Yeah, exactly. And then just go, I could see where Keely's coming from. But Roy, at the same time, like, this is probably a relation. Roy's probably never done this to anyone before, as far as just hovered and been kind of the puppy dog. I think Roy is in such a different, unique place with Keely that, he was legitimately hurt. Like, his feelings were hurt when she snapped at him. He was like, that scene where he was like, whoa.
That was pretty funny when she finally just went batshit crazy.
Yeah.
And he's like, hold on. That's what you're talking with everybody?
Yeah. Yeah. And then he was embarrassed, right? It's kind of like emasculating, that was her issue.
Everyone knows. Yeah.
Everybody knows, which is a nightmare for Roy. You got to imagine that.
Yeah. That's a shot to the ego, if anything at all.
But it affected him later in the day as he's coaching with the guys.
Yeah, they're out in the field and they're kind of they split up. They did a whole stew, metaphor, which was weird.
Right.
If I guess first team, second team, whatever. And Roy starts getting on Jamie. He's like, "You got to do this. You got to do this." And Jamie actually sits down. Well, not sits down, but they talk to him. He's like, "This is what he needs. He needs me to pull this and that." And they start talking, and we get this scene here, which is fantastic. Oh, language. Watch it.
Yeah, watch the language.
But the point is that Richard doesn't need me to crowd him. And since he's my teammate, I should trust him to do what's best. Right?
not!
I ain't say nothing bad this time.
It gets us every time.
And I didn't say anything bad this time. I can't.
The unknown wisdom of Jamie. Jamie just dropping some wisdom on Roy that he didn't even realize he was dropping. That was really funny.
Oh, and the best thing is, we were going through like our pre-show of this, the guy standing behind Danny Rojas is actually already smiling, like big old crap-eating grin on his face.
He looks like he's about to break, yeah.
It's like they've done this scene a good probably 10 times because they couldn't keep it together.
They were waiting for him to yell out that exclamation again and again, you could tell.
And the minute it happened, I immediately thought back season 1, reading the book with Phoebe in the bedroom, and that same realization. That time it was Ted. Yeah. This time it was the most unlikely person to give it to him.
You know he's got to hate that.
But it was Jamie.
Yeah, for Jamie to give him a nugget of truth. He wasn't expecting that.
Yeah, no, not even close. But
yeah.
And it leads to a whole thing. Like he goes home. Keely, you see Keely come home. His like SUV or whatever it is sitting in there, and she comes in and she sees a duffel bag.
Right.
The first thing that would go through everybody's mind is we just had this fight.
Yeah.
He thinks, he's smothering me.
Right.
He's gonna leave. And she finds him upstairs in the bathroom. He's done.
Of course, he's Roy Kent, so he's done the next perfect thing again because he's the perfect male specimen. I suppose he's getting a reputation on the internet as far as being like he's not even a real guy. He's some sort of like computer creation.
yeah, I've seen that too.
Yeah,
but you know what? He's everywhere.
He is. He's everywhere. So he fills a hot bathtub with candles and rose petals. And
he tells Siri to play his Roy's Sorry for Not Understanding Keely playlist or something like that.
And you're not going to see me for 3 hours. He gives Keely exactly what she needed in that moment. Of course, she's, they're back to being okay again.
She's over the moon. Yeah, I think she was terrified that her freak out on him scared him away. Because I think there's been a lot of times between when we first met him at the very beginning of season 1 till now that there's been points where he's fragile.
Sure.
He doesn't even know who he is. He's lost his footballing career.
Right.
And he went into being a pundit. And then, it was a period of time where he didn't do anything. He was coaching Phoebe's soccer team and yelling at the little girls, which is funny. And, then becomes, assistant coach. So there's been a large character arc already with him. And now seeing this point of him, it's I don't know, his character is one of the best characters on the show. I mean, there's Ted. But I don't know if the show would be the same if there wasn't a Roy.
Oh, sure. Yeah, each character brings their own kind of special, unique piece to this show. And if any of them were missing, it would feel incomplete. I mean, Keely, Nate, Leslie Higgins.
Even a little bit we get from Higgins. It's always like nuggets of pure and honest truth. And
they each have such distinct voices, each of the characters, and they're written so uniquely. I think that's true. But they're back in a good place. What do you think of down the line? Because I think this was like a test of their relationship a bit, and it's kind of a test of a lot of newer relationships as far as what's the appropriate mix of being together versus alone time or whatever. But do you think we're going to see a Keely Roy wedding at some point?
I don't know if we're going to be with the show long enough.
Yeah, you think not? Maybe not.
I think. I mean, they're going to be dating a year-ish.
Yeah,
I can see us seeing a proposal, but I don't know. It depends on how long the show runs. If we get more than 3 seasons, I can see it. If we get 3 seasons and that's it, and they have a story road, they have a whole show arc.
Mm-hmm.
And they have all their characters planned out. I would rather us not see it than them writing another season just so we can see, that take place.
Yeah, that's a fair point. I want them to kind of try to keep it concise. I think better TV is ones that it's not stretched out past the point of it's unrecognizable anymore. If they got a story to tell, have an ending in mind, that kind of thing. But I don't know. Should we? Let's see. Oh, we got another comment here. Roy had 2 issues: the supposed smothering and Keely telling everyone else that he was smothering her, which made him look bad. The second part was not fixed. Oh yeah, that's true. I don't think they're going to revisit that, in the next episode. I think this as a plot point has probably been resolved enough for them to not revisit. But yeah, that's got to be a stick in the crawl for Roy, is that everybody knows the details of their relationship. I don't know. That's maybe something they revisit. I don't know. It could be.
Or it's something they may do later down the road. I don't think we're going to be going to the next episode with that storyline still kind of floating out there.
Yeah,
I think they've got a lot on their plate right now with Nate and Ted, and then you got the rest. And then just the rest of it by itself. I mean, apparently there's a semifinals happening where they're going to be playing, I think, Man City, which was Jamie's old team.
Yeah,
before he went and did his reality TV show.
And to be honest, they haven't done a lot with Jamie this season so far. Jamie's just kind of been a joke in the background and popping in here and there. But I feel like there's some unresolved issues with Jamie's father, like with just his. I think there's more to do with Jamie than hopefully we get to that, within this season.
I've liked what they've done with Jamie.
Oh yeah, me too.
I like how they've slowly rehabilitated him completely. I feel like he's a completely different character now.
I like seeing him as one of the team, one of the guys.
Yeah. I mean, just the conversation that he had with Roy in the clip we just watched.
Right.
That there, yeah. I like the very end of it. It's like, I didn't even say anything wrong this time.
Right. Even he's aware.
Yeah.
Right.
So I like that. I do agree that there is going to be some type of thread where we see his dad come in play, because we seen him last season.
Mm-hmm.
And then with them going black and playing Man City, there's a part of me wants them to lose. I don't want them. I don't want them to be. Get this. This is just come.
Oh no! Are you gonna do another? Okay, go for
it. They're playing Man City.
Yeah.
And what winds up happening is it's a 1-1 tie going into. They gotta go into PKs because there's got to be a winner. Jamie's up. He makes it. They keep going. He misses. They lose. Hits crossbar. And misses the shot.
That'd be something.
I mean, because everyone would expect them to hit the shot and continue, and something else happen. Like Danny Rojas comes up and he's the one that makes the winning one, or they go completely to Colin,
right? And
he's the one that shoots the winning goal.
Yeah.
But if Jamie actually misses the shot, and then you see his dad go just ballistic on him after the game in the parking lot.
What's funny is that I did hear after season 1 is that Jason Sudeikis and the writers kind of formulated this plot as to be a 3-act structure, and opening a season 2 and a season 3. They were only really planning for 3 seasons. I don't know if they've gone beyond that now, but they definitely have 3 seasons, approved by Apple. And I mean, what is the second act of any trilogy or story? The second act is always the darkest part. And Ted mentioned it earlier when you're going through the forest, the dark forest in the middle of the story. It's the Empire Strikes Back, so that's very possible that we may see a low for this team to end this season, to really kind of come back from it season 3.
I don't think it would end the season, because that game's next. I still hold to the point where they're going to be promoted back to the Premier League.
Mm-hmm.
And then they're going to win the Premier League next year.
Yeah.
I still hold to that belief. I see the way of the FA Cup is just a tournament within the season. So it's not, I'm not sure. I don't quote me correct, with this here, but I don't think it has any reflection on the standings. Like, I don't think a win or a loss are points towards the season.
Fair.
So if they lose that, it doesn't actually reflect their standing, in the actual league. So I know they were on a 4-game winning streak. And I don't know if that 4-game winning streak was a part of, the actual season here. Let's see here. I think Man City will intentionally injure Jamie, and he's out for a while. Oh, wow. Oh, man.
That would be harsh.
And we offer to buy Jamie and try to bring him back to Man City.
Oh, boy. Yeah, that'd be some high drama.
Oh, yeah. That is a...
Maynard's calling his shot.
Yeah. I love it. So I'm not the only one that's out there in left field here.
Thinking what could happen. That's one of the good things about Ted Lasso is that the plot moves with such a progression that, and there's enough time left in the season where they could do so many things. So.
Yeah, that's crazy. I never thought of them trying to intentionally hurt him.
Yeah.
Then try to buy his rights.
So as far as this particular episode, really the only storyline that we have left to talk about is Ted and Ted finally sitting down with Dr. Sharon. And it's been a long time coming. It's pretty much since, episode 1 of the season.
That's exactly what we wanted too. I mean, the whole interaction, because it wasn't just one interaction, it was many. And it was Ted, all of Ted's personalities. We've seen the happy, we've seen the mad, we've seen, everything there, which was fantastic, from just sitting down. And when she said, let's talk about what happened the other day. And he's like, nope, and gets up and just walks out.
Yeah.
And she thinks it's it. I think there was a part of her that thought that she would not be able to speak with him about it because he won't open up to it. And then he came back. I don't know if it was the next day, but the next time we seen him, and she's like, "Oh, Ted, you're back." He said, "Well, I don't quit."
Right.
So he sat down, and it got real. It got real fast. Basically, you said you want to know what I think of this. And he called it bullshit. And he said, you're being paid to be here. You don't care. You're just writing your notes. And it hurt her. You can see the look on her. Like, first of all, I don't think she's seen it coming.
Right.
I mean, she's great at what she does, but I think he may have blindsided her.
As far as his passion, like, he really doesn't like therapists. I think she got maybe an inkling of it, but I don't think she knew the full extent of his feeling towards her profession, which she would take that personally. I mean, not only, therapy and just being a doctor, being in a profession like that, it takes years and it takes sacrifice and it takes a long time. And you really have to be driven to love what you do and want to do what you do to be in a profession like that. Otherwise, the work is too hard to get there, for you to. And for somebody to come in and just basically call your profession BS and what you do day-to-day BS, that is harsh. She tells him that third time that he's in there. Yeah. She makes note of it.
Oh, yeah. And she said it hurt.
Right.
And then they got talking a little bit more. And she's like, you know what? You have a fight and flight reaction. And she's like, it's actually pretty impressive. You can do both.
Yeah. Yeah, he's got 3 days in a row. I took it as like it was one day, then a second day, and then a third day where he attempted it, right?
Yeah.
Because he already had this moment from the last episode where it's like he realizes that he needs to sit down with her. There's something going on with him.
Yeah.
That first session, it's all nervous, jittery energy where he's, cracking his typical jokes. He can't seem to get comfortable on the couch. And, he basically just kind of freaks out and leaves before they really start talking about real stuff. And then he tries again that second day. And that's that second day. Just like we already talked about the 3-act structure, introduction.
Yeah.
That second day was harsh, man. That's when all those negative feelings came out.
Well, things got real. And honestly, that's the side of Ted I've been waiting for.
Right.
Ever since, he was really gracious at the end of season 1 when he decided he was going to go ahead and he realized him and his wife weren't working out.
Right.
But you knew the tension that was going to be with his son.
Mm-hmm.
And still dealing with the army men. I think we only seen him really once so far this season, and it was with Jamie.
Right.
And the phone call, which we're going to talk about later. One of our viewers actually have a theory with the phone call, which is very interesting. But then started sending him into a downward spiral.
Right.
Because the panic attack happened again, just like it did in the what's it called, the karaoke bar.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's. I don't know. I love Ted so much in this show. Seeing him broken makes me almost like him more because he's such a character. But seeing the real side of him, it makes you even like love that character even more, I think.
Or see all sides of him. Typically in a character like this, you only see the sweet stuff. You only see the positive energy. And because we get to see, this is a long form storytelling, we get to see all sides of Ted. He's more of a well-rounded character than just the typical old Ned Flanders stereotype, you know.
Well, we see him sitting at the bar,
right?
And then our favorite, Ted Krim makes an appearance, which is awesome.
Trent Krim and both of them. I was thinking May. You were thinking Trent Krim.
Oh yeah, May. Well, it's funny because he holds to his food poisoning thing, and May's like, so well, not from here.
Yeah, that was funny. And the Trent Krim just random appearance was funny too. He was trying to get more out of him as far as what happened on the field when he walked off, but Ted was kind of stonewalling. I'm like, that's all that's going to come out there as far as
and that's the first time he did that to him. He's always been so open to Trent. I can actually see a full-fledged article coming from Trent about what's going through with Ted. Like when Ted's okay with it. Later down, because I feel like he is the first one he truly opened up to on the show.
Right.
I feel like when they did that whole montage last season, when he followed him around, when they went to the school, when they went out to eat, the whole thing, when he finally broke through to Trent, when Trent was like, I don't think he's going to succeed, but it's not going to make me happy to watch him fail.
What if Trent somehow gets information about Ted's therapy sessions or what's going on with him, and his walk off the field was more than just food poisoning, and he releases a story without Ted's approval or permission? Do you think that's something that would be kind of interesting?
I mean, that would fall right into sports, media. I mean, that's technically that's Trent's job.
Right.
But then what if he got the information and we actually see Trent outside of Ted? What if we see the information fall on his desk and you see the internal struggle with him, knowing that he likes the guy and going
he's
through
rooting for him.
He's rooting for him. I think he actually likes him.
Yeah.
But then there's also this, sitting down with a psychiatrist isn't something that is mental health is in the forefront.
Yeah.
So does he want to drag him through the media for that?
Especially, if they get into a run where they're losing a few games in a row, the town and, Richmond, the fans and the town that they live in, it's already kind of back and forth. Like if they're winning, they're way behind you. But if you're losing, it's like push you out the door. Right.
Yeah. They want to like Ted. You can tell they want to like Ted.
They want to
win more.
But if they're on a losing streak and they find out that Ted's got some sort of inner turmoil and struggle, they'll be calling for him to like get the hell out of there.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that could bring some, like we said, we're always speculating as far as what the heck could happen within a season.
I love the show for the fact that we can actually do that. And it's not out of complete left field speculation. It's things that they can legitimately do. And it's just sometimes they decide that they're going to go a different angle with it. We're just going with them, the most fun we can figure out.
I think it's because they drop these little character moments. They drop these little scenes with like this one, for example, where Ted's sitting at the bar with May and Trent. There's really not a ton of point to that scene, but maybe it's just enough to introduce something a little bit later.
Yeah, they're setting things up for the future.
Right, yeah.
Oh, check this out. I think that Nate will reveal it to Trent later when he's angry with Ted.
Oh, see, that's because
that would fall right into, something leaking out of the team. Who's the leak?
Right.
Oh,
that would be. You think I'm mad at Nate now, boy?
Oh, yeah. That. Could you imagine what would happen if Beard found out?
Oh boy, that would not good. That's high drama.
Yeah, we'll be going from lighthearted comedy to high drama. Yeah,
that's Empire Strikes Back stuff. That's Lando Calrissian.
Lando, that's hilarious.
I mean, boy, hey, good call, Mater. As far as it makes sense as far as tying two storylines together too, right? I mean, that makes sense as far as Nate's progression this season. So, wow.
Well, we kind of gotten off of Ted and Sharon here a little bit. I mean,
I know. So that second session, that second day, he storms out. He's mad, and he really offends Sharon. And the next day, he comes in because he doesn't quit, and he's once again he's kind of awkward and joking again, but she sets him straight right from the get go.
And then this interaction takes place here.
So you think I'm scared, huh?
Yes, I do.
Yeah. Maybe I don't want to learn the truth.
Ted, the truth will set you free. But first it'll piss you off.
Well, then maybe your new nickname should be the Truth.
Well, I can't be your mentor without occasionally being your tormentor.
Ooh, I like that.
I knew you would.
I knew
Yeah.
I
liked it too. Mentor torment. It was kind of funny.
That's awesome. And I like when he was interacting with her and he was being real with her. You can see the emotion in her eyes. She didn't say a word at one point. You can see the acting without saying a word.
Right.
Like almost coming to tears because she knows she's breaking through to one of the most difficult people that she's probably had any type of interaction with. Because of that fight and flight, reflex that he's mastered both of.
Yeah.
So I think it's great for her.
I like that, they had the storyline. They had this 3 days that he barges in, barges out. But it doesn't feel like this is the end. Like, it doesn't feel like, oh, well, Ted's going to be okay now. Or this just feels like honestly, it feels like the beginning. It feels like we're going to get more scenes with his sessions with Sharon.
They got to address him being away from his son. They got to address his divorce.
Right.
They got to, there's a few things they've got to address because they've already given them to us.
Right.
So if he's now with her, they've got to go ahead and they can't just sweep it under the carpet like they did when changing from Dubai Air to, the banter. I mean, it's, I don't think anyone would be okay with that.
Sharon's going to be our outlet as viewers to see Ted's internal dialogue. Because so far we've seen, the happy mask that is Ted when he's around his players and the staff there at Richmond. And then we've had the few scenes where he's home by himself and, is pouring himself some whiskey and just like not doing so well,
Yeah. So
this is going to be our opportunity to actually hear him talk about the things out loud that he's going through internally, which is great.
Yeah, this is what I've been waiting for. I mean, it sucks because it's going to go ahead and it's going to take some of the episodes. It's going to take some of the fun out, but it's going to be real. Because I mean, we're not looking at a one-dimensional character,
right?
We're looking at a person, and I got to applaud basically Jason Sudeikis for this because he's addressing a issue that is absolutely in the forefront with mental health. If it's just everyday Joes like you and me, or if it's actual athletes and coaches,
right?
People like us would sit back and say, "Hey, you're living your best life. What's up?"
Right, as though some people are immune to having internal struggles.
Yeah, we don't know that he just. If we're sitting back and I'm an AFC Richmond fan, I have no idea he just got divorced from his wife.
Yeah,
I don't know that he's thousands of miles away from his son.
Right.
I don't know that he's sitting in his apartment drinking whiskey, watching, It's a Wonderful Life on Christmas. We don't know any of this. All we see is him, when he's interviewed before a match, halftime, and then when we see him during the match on the side making adjustments. That's all we really see.
Yeah. It was funny. There is one piece of dialogue that I thought was really kind of just a great piece of writing too, is how Ted gets on her from that second day as far as, in that third, where he says, you don't care about what you do. You don't care about me. You're just doing this for a paycheck. And that last day she calls him out on it. She's like, do you care about what you do? Would you love coaching, right? But would you coach for free? And he's like, yeah, I would. But she says like, well, are you?
Yeah.
And it's like, well, no, it's a profession.
Yeah.
It's a profession, but it doesn't mean you don't care. So she totally kind of switched that around on him. And I thought that was great because she really kind of, set him straight, and she had the upper hand in that moment.
Yeah. And that's when, I mean, that whole interaction that we just seen, because there was a lot that happened before then.
Yeah.
And then, him sitting there and I mean, you see him basically say, so you think I'm scared? And she's like, yeah, I think he's coming to a realization that there's things that are completely out of his control that freaks him out. Because as a coach, you have control. Everything in your life, you are a control freak in essence. And then when there's things that you can't control, it really messes with you.
Yeah. So I think that's really, look, it's funny because you're right. This episode didn't have kind of the big sweeping epic scenes or moments in it. But it was heavy on character progression, which
Yeah.
is good. I mean, that's some of the best parts of this show, honestly, is the character progression.
I think we got one more comment here. Let's see here.
Beard's going to bring Nate to Fieldstone for therapy and overhear Ted's session. Nate will be interviewed by this Wonder Kid. We good article and you accidentally reveal it to Trent. Hey, that could be too. I love that Maynard's like doing his own speculation too. That's what's so fun about doing these after shows, man.
Yeah, the more interaction, the better, honestly. If you guys can go along, and if you guys are going to be as out there and making weird predictions like I am all for it.
Yeah, we're here for it. So I think you had actually, speaking of which, I think you had a comment from last week, right, that you wanted to bring up.
Yeah, over on YouTube, Peggy went ahead and says it's about that phone call, the one that we Ted basically told everybody
at the beginning of the last episode.
His son forgot his lunch before an actual before a
field
game.
Trip.
She went on and said, I have a theory that something more serious happened with his son at school. He just didn't want to let, oh my goodness.
He just didn't want to tell the other.
Yeah. And the stress of not being there for whatever it was is what sent him into his panic attack.
Yeah, that was an interesting. See, I took it as just it was a problem and a typical problem that you would handle as a dad, and the fact that it was taken care of without him being needed at all is what kind of set him off. But I mean, Peggy's read on it could be totally valid too. Like, it's all stress inducing, whether it's a big problem or a little problem. When you're so far away from your kid, I can imagine why that would push Ted to the brink, honestly.
Yeah, I mean, that's interesting. I didn't think of that. I thought it was gonna be something small, but it could be something big, like he actually fell and broke his arm or something, or something that would be traumatic to a child.
Yeah,
and then you're not there to, to hold their hand and tell them everything's gonna be all right, and get them through it, and then help them pick out the neon green cast, get a bunch of neon markers and start running all over it.
Right, yeah,
just to go ahead and. So,
or just the fact, like, too, right? I mean, even if it is just a little problem, it was him forgetting his lunch.
Mm-hmm.
The fact that he couldn't even be there for the little problem, the fact that it was taken care of without Ted, it just adds to those feelings of like, I'm just not there. I'm not fulfilling my role as my son's father. And I mean, that would be, that would be a kick too. I mean, so yeah, either way, I think that was a great read by Peggy from last week.
Awesome. But I mean, okay, man. So overall, just a real quick impression of the season, because we did, not season, episode. We just kind of got into it. We gave it a little bit at the beginning. Yay, nay.
I give it kind of like a 7 out of 10. I mean, it did, like I said, I did like a lot of the character progression here, and even the stuff with Nate, which is kind of hard to watch sometimes because I don't like what he's doing, as what his choices are. I think it's going somewhere. I think there's a reason why we're seeing all this stuff from Nate. So I have faith in the show that, we're going to progress and continue to just love the season.
Okay. Yeah. And I'll see, I'm a little lower on it. I'm going to give it about a 6. I mean, borderline 5, because I mean, the Ted stuff, as great as the Ted stuff was, I just completely disliked the Nate stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, like I said, there's a point to it, and okay, I'm going to let it go, and I'm along for the ride. But I didn't feel like the Roy and Keely stuff was enough to pull the Nate storyline along. You know what I mean? So I'll give it a little bit lower, but I mean, all in all, I love the show, man. So I'm going to keep watching. I trust where they're going with it. And I don't think they're going to let us, leave us out dry and not answer anything. So
I know, but it's dangerous creating your own storylines in your head, because sometimes when it doesn't pan out that way, it could be a little disappointing.
Oh no, dude! I did it for WandaVision. I thought it was amazing. I think it's one of the most fun things we do when we find a show that we love. I mean, I know some people are disappointed and it kills the show for them. Me, on the other hand, I love trying, and if I fail, gloriously, I mean, that's even a bigger badge of honor for me.
How about the Star Wars sequel trilogy? Did that was that good as far as how it panned out versus what you thought it might be in your head?
Oh, let's get off that. Let's stay with Ted. Let's put that in some carbonite.
Hey, we are Dadnarok. In case you don't know, we do a podcast available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, everywhere there's podcasts. You can find us. Just search Dadnarok. If you guys haven't subscribed yet to our YouTube channel, please go ahead and do that. We love you joining us each and every week. for this Ted Lasso After Show every Friday at 10 p.m. on YouTube, Twitch, Twitter, and Facebook. But yeah, it really helps us out if you could go to our YouTube page, like, subscribe, and interact with us, comment on the video. We love it.
Yeah, anything and everything. I'm out there. I'm responding to every comment you make on there. So we love it. Thank you guys for sticking around. And until we see you next week, go ahead and keep it cheesy.
See ya.